And we are live. Hey everybody, it's Will Middleton and Kurt Von Onen from LifterLMS. We'll be here for the next hour answering your pre-sales, getting started, any questions you have from any users joining us live, and we'll also be checking out our Facebook and YouTube pages to see what comments people have had since we were last live. We skipped last week because we were in WordCamp US in Maryland. We have some questions to catch up on, and I'm sure anyone watching live will have some feedback questions to drop in chat. So let us know where you're calling in from. I'm currently in Atlanta, Georgia. I just got in like 30 minutes ago. I drove for like 21 hours. I slept for 2 hours on the floor of my car at a gas station in Tennessee. But otherwise, I've been up for like a really long time. So I'm a little spacey. But how are you doing today, Kurt? You're going through a big move. You're in a different background than we usually see you at.
Yeah, I am in my daughter's abandoned bedroom in a camping chair. My computer is propped up on a ladder and a shelf that I stole out of the bathroom. And I am just getting ready to move. We are escaping California and we are fleeing to Kansas.
Awesome. Well, let me pull up the YouTube comments and we'll see like what we have to dive into first as a question. And anyone listening live, feel free to let us know where you're calling in from, what you're up to, how you're feeling today. Any questions you have about LifterLMS, we'll be talking about it for the next hour or so. This is a good question. I haven't.
Well, dude, let's hold off on the questions for just a heartbeat, man. Tell me how you're doing. You just drove halfway across the country, man. Minnesota to Georgia. You've been in that living room for what 20 minutes trying to get ready for this live. Are you good?
Yeah. I'm here in my bedroom at the Airbnb, a super nice place, super nice host. And I got in here, I opened my computer. I've been slacking people all day on my phone while I was driving. But I got here, opened my laptop, sent out the pre-sales emails, sent out the office hours campaign, set up a new LifterLMS expert. If you haven't seen that page, lifterlms.com/experts, there's a new expert on that page, and just kind of like rolling right into work after 36 hours of being awake and 3 hours of sleep. And nice. It's crazy. Like I worked yesterday and then I drove and now I'm working. Like there wasn't really much sleep in the meantime. But it feels like that was a long time ago, but it was really only about 24 hours ago.
It's a shame it's not the 80s. You could just do some cocaine and nobody would think anything about it.
Well, we'll see what I can find here in Atlanta.
All right. Well, let's dive into the questions. You put one up there. It says, "Is there a simple way to change section?" You and I are clicking the same thing. Yeah. Click section and lesson. For example, what if I want my courses organized by lesson and step? And dude, I'm doing this for a client right now, like trying to explain like the hierarchy, if hierarchy is the word, of the layout, right? So lesson, section, course, membership, track, like there's all these ways to set things up. And right now I have a client who their own internal terminology is saying, oh, we just want these in different sections, or, and I'm like, okay, but that's not how that works, especially since it's a SCORM client. So I'm trying to embed SCORM for them. Yeah. So I'm like, so do you want this on separate course pages? Do you want this on, because a section doesn't hold content, it just separates the lessons into sections. And that's kind of a hard thing to communicate to folks, because there's the implication when they see section, they think, oh, I can add stuff in there. But it really is just kind of it's just an organizational tool to keep your lessons in the right order.
Right. And for anyone who's new to LifterLMS, what we're talking about here is this area in the course builder. Each course has the course builder area, and we have sections and lessons. And this is like the hierarchy Kurt's talking about, where you have the sections which kind of organize your lessons. And when we view the front end of our course, if I click on view course, I'm going to open that in a new tab. What this turns into is this little syllabus area here where we see getting started, what is LifterLMS, and then we go back to the course builder. We can see where we can edit that here. So simple way to change section and lesson, for example, if I want lesson and step. So those names, section and lesson, don't appear on the front end of the website. So you could rename these. Like if I jump over here, we see it's just getting started. So if you wanted to call this like lesson 1, getting started, and then step 1, step 1, something like that. Let me go ahead and save this. And I'm also
you physically have to type that in there if that's what you want to see on the front end.
Yeah, but it would look, something like that. And so this would kind of break it down. And still on the back end, we're using the LifterLMS section lesson, but on the front end, we can kind of create whatever experience we want with that.
Yeah. Now, while you're on that page, just to give you an idea of like I have a client that reached out to me and said, "Oh, I don't like the way this is formatted, the way this looks," and she's using SCORM, and she wants to use SCORM for part of the navigation and have buttons for part of the navigation, but she doesn't want the syllabus in the sidebar, because when you look at the page you're on right now, you've got the syllabus on the sidebar, but it almost looks like a duplication at the bottom of the page, right? So what our solution is going to be in this particular use case, and use case is going to be my word of the day, by the way. Use case, it's a hyphenated word. It's one word of the day. I'm going to remove the sidebar on the course and lesson pages, and we're going to drive everything through the main body of the pages. And when the SCORM displays, it's going to give it a wider canvas to show the SCORM material on by getting rid of the sidebar.
Right. And getting rid of the sidebar is something that would be a little bit different based on what theme you're using. In this website, I'm using LifterLMS Skypilot. So getting rid of the sidebar, there's not even really a concept of a sidebar. We would just edit the course template, and then we would just remove that section. That's about 30% of the width. But then if you're using Astro or Cadence, they do actually have a sidebar that you just check a box or change the template layout that says no sidebar, and you'll be good to go with that. And we did have a question from Martin in chat that said, "Hi
Martin
guys."
Kicks butt because he's in London, which means it's 6:00 p.m. over there, something like that.
Yeah. It is later time there. I don't know what time is anymore. So I'm in London. Nice to see you guys. Nice to see you again, Martin. I think I've seen you before on the live streams. Your trip sounds good. Just wondered if there's any easy way to delete a lot of enrolled students from a course without canceling the WooCommerce orders, as I'm worried it might refund them. Canceling the WooCommerce orders won't refund them. Even if you change the status of the order to refunded, it's not going to change the refund status. Like you have to go click that little button in the corner and say refund, type the refund amount, and then process it in order for that to happen. But yeah, deleting student enrollments is something you could just do. Maybe that's an interesting question. I have WooCommerce on this website. I have the Lifter WooCommerce setup going. So I wonder if I could see do I have test orders on this website? I don't. WooCommerce is enabled, but when we have an order in WooCommerce, we also have an enrollment status associated with that order. And I don't think we can change that in bulk. We could change it individually, or we could like go into the course and then maybe like delete the students. You probably would not want to delete the students' user accounts, but you could like click into the orders, and it would have something like this, the order number. You click on that, change the enrollment status. I don't know if enrollment status is something that we can change in WooCommerce orders. Let me try that. I've never tried to delete WooCommerce or delete student enrollments without canceling the WooCommerce order. Have you ever tried to do something like that, Kurt, where we're trying to like?
No, in my mind, and this is my decades of retail, right, and selling ladies' shoes and things like that. So in my mind, LifterLMS is the product, right, and WooCommerce is the cash register. And in my mind, when someone does a WooCommerce transaction, it activates the access through the LifterLMS access plan. So anytime I alter a student's access to something, I usually just modify that through the LifterLMS or the I should say the WordPress user account. Mm-hmm. Like I would go into membership or I would go into course, and then I would remove the student from that access.
Okay, so yeah, it's like kind of a one-on-one thing.
Yeah. So if we're going to talk about that in bulk, I got to start wondering then, like, would that become a WP Fusion like tagging activity? Like if it was a certain group of, certain bulk group of students that had a tag that was easily identifiable, you could use the WP Fusion thing to activate an unenrollment.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty smart way to go about doing it. I think like I never thought about that because I think unenrollment is something you can do.
Like
Um,
Groundhog can do unenrollment, right? So if I had a CRM tool like Active Campaign or Groundhog or one of those, like I say Groundhog because it integrates with LifterLMS, boom, just like that. So if I had an identifiable tag for that people group that I wanted to modify, as long as they were separated by that tag, I would be able to make that change in bulk, right? So I could just literally go into Groundhog and do, Lifter LMS benchmarker action with this tag, unenroll, boom.
yeah, I don't know if. Oh yeah, there we go. So if and when the tag is removed, the user will be unenrolled. Of course, link with tag. Okay. So yeah, I guess there might be a way to do this with WP Fusion. I've never actually done that setup in Groundhog or WP Fusion where you do the unenrollment based on tag, but it sounds like it is possible. So that might be something to look into if you're using Groundhog or another CRM with WP Fusion to try to do it in bulk. Of course, it's possible one-on-one, and I don't think it would break like it wouldn't cause like any refunds or anything to do it one by one within the system. But I don't know if there's a bulk way within the system to do that without just deleting the users. Um, and
Yeah,
even
and
their orders wouldn't unenroll them.
this takes us right back to our word of the day. Will, what was the word of the day?
Oh, you got use case?
Use case. How big is the user base in this project, and does the work required to set up an automation for bulk action, override the ability to go in and make one-on-one changes? If I've got a site with 100 users or less, I'm probably not going to dive into WP Fusion doing something for a single case thing. But if I've got 1,000 users, then I'm going to start looking at automations and tools to quicken my process.
Hmm. Right. Martin did have a follow-up question there. Would deleting an order delete the enrollment? I don't think it does, but I should probably test that.
Yeah, I don't think it does either, because I think deleting the order is like, it's like taking the money out of the cash register, but the product's already left the store.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't think there's anything retroactively. I could run a test on that, but then there was a good question here in chat um, from Demosthenes. I hope I'm pronouncing
Demosthenes.
Demosthenes from Peru. Thanks for calling in. Kurt, you want to jump on this question, and I'll try in the background to create an order with WooCommerce and delete it and see what happens. It shouldn't delete the enrollment, but I'll test that out in the background.
So,
Yeah.
referring to Demosthenes' question, I think he's probably hearing us talk to Martin about WooCommerce, and he's probably spiraling out right now, going, "Oh my God, I need to do WooCommerce." So, WooCommerce is not a requirement to use Lifter LMS. Lifter LMS has available payment gateways through PayPal, Stripe, Authorize.net, and if you're just selling digital material like access to your courses, if you're just selling memberships and digital access to courses, no, you could just use the Lifter LMS payment gateway, and our native payment gateway will take care of subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. So you do not need WooCommerce to use Lifter LMS. However, if you want to sell in some other markets, like for instance, we're in the United States. So Will and I, we tend to talk about being in the United States a lot. However, some countries struggle with the use of Stripe or PayPal. They have different payment gateways that they need to use. And if that's the case, like if you need to connect to your bank at a different level, then WooCommerce is probably your answer, because WooCommerce and our integration with WooCommerce would allow you to make a connection to a payment gateway that's other than Stripe, PayPal, or Authorize.net. The other thing to consider is if you want to sell hard goods, notebooks, coffee cups, tapestries, sell event tickets, maybe. Think of all the different things you might want to sell through your website. If you believe that your use case, ding, 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 use case, is that you want to sell something other than the digital material that you offer through Lifter LMS, then you probably want to start with WooCommerce right out of the chute. because I'll tell you that when you shift from one payment gateway to the other, that can be cumbersome for you and your customers. So if you know that your business model, if your use case is to sell hard goods on top of the course access, then you probably want to consider another cart. And I was very strategic how I said another cart. It doesn't have to be WooCommerce. We have an integration with WooCommerce. We're very WooCommerce friendly. There's a lot of options with WooCommerce, and it fills the gap for a lot of people. But there are other carts out there. There's Thrive Cart, there's Sure Cart, there's all kinds of tools that you can integrate with the system and still use if you're really adverse to WooCommerce and their one-site license monopoly that they have on some of the things that you might want to use.
Right. And if you're in Peru, I don't know what gateways work well in Peru. I usually try to get Stripe and PayPal if I can. Preferably Stripe is my favorite one to use. It's just like simplest for me to set up. But if you did want to do that, like the other considerations, like Kurt said, then the WooCommerce has a lot. It's a lot more extendable, but it's just not as necessary for a lot of my use cases.
Yeah, so with WooCommerce, one right out of the gate that I'll share with you that becomes an obstacle for people is subscriptions. If you have a recurring payment model, you get WooCommerce, right? And you go, oh, I'm done. And then you set up your site and you launch your site and you think everything's great. If you haven't done the research yet, you actually need a subscription add-on to be able to sell the recurring payments through WooCommerce. And currently that is a one-site license product from WooCommerce. And I think it's $249 a year. Right. And so when I look at the cost of Lifter, at the premium level, right? So let's say I have $360 a year for that I'm paying. So let's say I've got $360 there. Maybe I've got an Elementor site, so I'm paying, $50-$60 on that. Maybe I did Astra Pro, right? So that's another $250 I spent. And then I go to launch my site and I got to come up with another $250 for WooCommerce. It's like, hey, wait a minute, this is getting expensive and I don't have customers yet. That's why it becomes so important to take a look at your launch, your use case, your people, and have a plan. Demosthenes says that you are a magician, and I'm pretty sure he's talking to you, Will, because that's your nickname.
Oh, thank you. The
Magic Will Middleton.
In the back end, I just messed up my WooCommerce setup. This is a common thing with setting up LifterLMS WooCommerce that I just missed, and I think a lot of our users misses some very important settings here that allow customers to place order without an account. We don't want that checked. We want customers to create an account during checkout. Then I want them to set their own password. Cool. So yeah, automatically generate a username. I do want the username automatically generated. I just went through and purchased with WooCommerce with like a test order, but it didn't work because I didn't create an account. And with LifterLMS, it is required that they create an account when checking out because the LifterLMS system needs to have a user account to associate the course with and say, okay, this user has access to the membership, this user has access to the course or whatever they're buying. So it's important for them to have that that access. So let me see if I can get this. I'll try again with my access. So I'm going through Martin's question there about
you can do it again.
Yeah, deleting the enrollment. Let's see. So I got my coupon. I got my product added to cart. View my cart. We're gonna try again to check out. I do have a coupon.
Senor Valera says that I'm a funny host. The accent is much better on the Demosthenes.
Nice. Place order. Oh, my address. Copying is not allowed. That's a nice feature of Lifter. I tried to copy and paste my name.
Oh.
It says copying is not allowed, but this is a test order, so I don't care what the data.
Yeah.
Okay. So we were enrolled successfully. I have access to the course now. So I think if I go to the back end of my website, let me share my other screen, my admin screen. I should have a new order here on WooCommerce. So it would be WooCommerce orders. There it is. Copying is not allowed is the name. And so let's go ahead and delete this. Move to trash. And then let's jump back to my other screen. Now that that's in the trash, let's jump back to my student screen and see what happens. This is my student who just purchased. I don't know what, like, there might be some code that removes it, but I don't think I'm going to lose access.
No.
Oh, I did. I did lose.
Dude, you're out.
I'm out. Let me recover that thing from the trash and just confirm that's what's going on. I just don't know if the code was written in the back end to say if the item is moved to the trash, then change the status.
If this, then that.
It looks like it might be. So I've now recovered. I've recovered the order, and I'm enrolling it. So okay, so yeah, and removing it to the trash does remove them from the course. So that's important to know.
So this is the part that's fun for me, Will, when we do this kind of stuff. Like you and I are used to using the system out of the box when it works, and like it works like the way you like we want to sell stuff, right? And then someone comes along and goes, but what if it's a Tuesday and it's the third month of the year and I'm in the southern hemisphere and my toilet spins the opposite way when I flush it? And you're like, well, crap, I don't know. So you just showed, basically the steps, right? You went through it, you duplicated it, and then we were able to make that confirmation. That's pretty cool. That's awesome. I dig that.
For sure. And even the LifterLMS experts, being Kurt, we don't know. So we just ran a test and figured it out. Apparently there is code in the back end to say if it's moved to the trash, change the enrollment status. So we can hat tip to the developers.
That's awesome. So I just wanted to share with Demo, the accent thing is something I've done since I have been a child. I used to work for Ducati and they sent me to Italy. So my first trip to Italy, I didn't know any Italian, right? Like, hey, what's the matter with you, huh? But that was like, cause I was raised in Philadelphia. And then, so I started to learn Italian. I bought the Pimsleur CDs and I started to learn Italian, right? Che cosa vuole fare, right? Now I'd ask all these things, right? Mi dia un cappuccino per favore. And at the factory was in Bologna. And they used to ask me to speak Italian all the time and then laugh, right? Because they thought it was hilarious because the dumb American could try to speak Italian. And I didn't know why. And then they would say, no, your pronunciation is good, and your Italian is getting much better. And they'd be very complimentary. But like when we would go out to dinner and start drinking wine after a few drinks, they'd be like, hey, Court, say this. And I would, I'd say it and they would all laugh. And I said, why are they laughing? And then Elena, the girl from the office, she says, they're laughing because you sound like you're from Sicily. You sound like you're in the mob. And I was like, I'm in the mob? What? And I said, no, I'm learning to speak Italian through these CDs. And apparently the people that made the CDs were from Sicily. So you got to be careful what products you buy when you're trying to educate yourself. Because I was a bald person in Bologna and people thought that I was a felon anyway. So it was interesting. New Hope. Awesome motorcycling. I used to motorcycle up Highway 32. I used to live outside of Philadelphia, and I would motorcycle up Highway 32 on a GSXR 750, full leathers, the whole thing. And we would go to New Hope, and we would have brunch at Mother's on the weekend. I don't know if Mother's is still there or not, but it was a wonderful place to have brunch. And New Hope is a fantastic little town in the mountains. What a great ride that used to be. And you guys have those cool bridges where you go down like the 2-lane road and the bridge goes like, and then over the creek, right? So you got the hump and man, you hit that at like 80, 90 miles an hour and you will fly 30, 40 feet. That was an amazing place. I loved it.
Nice. We did have another question come in from YouTube from the last week. This was on a video about LifterLMS advanced video or advanced quizzes. If I share my screen real quick, this is the admin screen again. LifterLMS has an add-on called Advanced Quizzes that allows you to extend the LifterLMS quiz functionality. In the free core LifterLMS plugin that's available in the WordPress repository, we have an option to create quizzes in Lifter, but we are limited to just these basic questions: multiple choice, picture choice, true, false. And Advanced Quizzes, the add-on on our store, also included in the Infinity Bundle, adds all of these other options. And this question was about, it would be nice to have a, what does that say? A correct answer for short, long. So with multiple choice, we have this option to say like results clarification, where we can say something about the correct choice. And then with short and long, I thought we had the same thing. So short answer, long answer. Oh, I guess we don't have a results clarification for this one. So The point with the long answer question type is it's a little bit different than multiple choice. If we do like a multiple choice question type, this is like multiple choice question. That's the one I don't have the mental capacity to write out actual questions right now. Write an essay. So these are two different question types, the long answer and multiple choice. We'll take a look at how these are a little bit different here. If I reorder these things.
In practice, the multiple choice and some of the other question types, you know what the correct answer is. There's only one choice for it to be correct. And so the system can identify that's incorrect or it's correct. But if you're using long or short answers and they are typed in by the user, the system isn't able to identify correct or incorrect without physical review.
Right. So once the quiz is completed here, just like Kurt said, the system knows which is correct for this one, because in the course builder, we select, if I collapse my settings, we select the correct answer here by highlighting on the back end. A was the correct answer, so I got 1 out of 1 point. But then it says pending review here because in order to pass this quiz, I think I need like 80%, 65%. So I need 65% to pass, and the system knows that I've got at least 50%, but I still need to make sure I get the point here. And so what happens is on the back end, under LifterLMS reporting, we should have a new quiz attempt that's come in. I don't even, what was this one called? What is LifterLMS quiz? So if I look through, there's so many quizzes on this website. I need to search for what is LifterLMS quiz. That didn't really narrow it down. Is it? Oh, I didn't. I see the problem. I didn't publish this. It's important. This publish box is pretty important at the top. Let me make sure that saves. Make sure that saves. Then hopefully now that it's a published quiz, it should show up in the reporting. There it is. Okay. Yeah, so that's a sneaky thing that I sometimes miss is this publish check mark. You got to check that box to make sure it's published so that students can see it and it shows up in the reporting. But now that it's in my reporting, I can open the quiz and then manually review it. The attempt, I see the student Arthur Wells submitted the quiz and I can give them feedback if I start a review. So this is like the results clarification right here from the instructor. Good job. I give them 1 point. Review. And then on the student's end, when they come back to the quiz page, they'll get an email notification that says your quiz was graded. And so now that the quiz has been graded, they get the notification. Yeah, there's just a little sidetrack from that question about correct answers in short and long question types.
Cool. You took down my comment. Hey, what's up, G?
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's that. Oh, yeah, from Twitch.
Twitch.
We don't get a lot of Twitch comments.
Well, those are the types of comments I would expect from Twitch. Hey, what's up, G? Well, Demostana says it's a good. Demostana says it's a good show today. That's because we're hitting them up with home stuff, like not only mothers for brunch, but you go right down the road. You could go into Amish villages up there, man, and all the farms. Get you some funnel cakes. Oh my goodness! Oh, it's such a good life out there. Go down and get some pizza squares. Oh, makes me want to go back and get something to eat.
Let me see.
We do have a question there, and this is a comment that we've commented on multiple times before. It's going to come up ad infinitum, dude. I mean, we're always going to have this conversation. Do you want to put your LMS on the main site or on a subdomain, right? Or a completely different URL and link it together? Will, I know you've got some opinions on it. I've got some opinions on it. Why don't you take the lead, and I'll see if I can backfill any insight I might have had from my experience.
Oh, yeah. So opening another domain site for my courses, and is there advantages, disadvantages? So the advantages of having it all on one website is that all of the SEO juice, as the SEO experts call it, goes to one domain, one web property. Because an install of WordPress is kind of like a web property. At LifterLMS, we created a bunch of subdomains years ago for like academy.lifterlms.com, blog.lifterlms.com, podcast.lifterlms.com, and then lifterlms.com, where we sell the software. And we had these 4 websites that were all running as individual web properties. And the blog is one of our most important marketing properties for the products. But if you were to Google something related to LifterLMS about like LifterLMS and Divi or something, if we did a blog post about that, the LifterLMS website had so much more credibility as a website and domain authority that the blog wouldn't actually rank. So we've been going through a project of actually trying to take our subdomains and merge them back into the main domain. So if SEO is very important to your business, I would recommend doing it as much as possible under one domain. There are advantages if you don't care about SEO, then it really doesn't matter. Companies like Apple have like itunes.apple.com and apple.com, and they're different web properties. But Apple is so ubiquitous that the SEO value they lose from having multiple domains just doesn't really matter, because they're just all of their domains are such high authority. So if you don't care about SEO, it's not really a big deal. And the advantage to having subdomains would be that you can have different teams log into different domains. You could have the marketing team log into your marketing website, and your maybe success team log into the customer website, and have those be separate. A nice thing you could do as well is maybe you have Shopify on your main domain, but then you have WordPress on your subdomain. You could even mix it up with the CMSs if you're doing multiple domains. So there are some advantages and flexibility that you get from having multiple domains or subdomains, different web properties, but then you do lose some value in SEO when doing that. I don't know. What do you think about that, Kurt? That topic of?
I drove myself crazy, Will. I did this. So when I first went public with Mañana No Mas, from a learning perspective, I threw out my old HTML website, because back in the day I had an old HTML website, right? So like built in Dreamweaver. So I took that, crumpled it up, I threw it in the trash can, and I launched a WordPress page. And then I was like, okay, now I want to add learning. And I had the choice, do I just want to add how do I want to put it in there, right? So I just want to throw the plugin in. Do I want to make it like a separate / installation? Do I want to put it as a subdomain? So you have all these things. So I went with subdomain, and I had, and it was, I think I called it LMS. Yeah. So lms.mañananomas.com. And it seemed smart. And then I thought, well, my main page looks like a newspaper, like it looks like a newsletter kind of format. Like mine was like first in, first out, and kind of a news site. And I was like reposting a lot of content from a lot of people back in the day. I thought that was the way to get people to come in. And so I wanted my academy to look like more professional and sterile. So I had 2 completely different looks and feels. And I did that on purpose. I thought that was the way to go. Dude, I drove myself crazy. Like, I started having design questions about my main site. And then I was like, well, do I want it to look like the academy? Do I want it to not look like the academy? I had to maintain that site. I had to pay for, some plugins were duplicated, and I had to pay because it's another active site. There were all kinds of things that kind of came up with this whole thing. And the SEO was a mess. So I was ranking for a lot of things on one site, but the other site would never come up for stuff. And I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna blend it together. And so I crumpled it up, I threw it in the trash can, and I started fresh. And I realized a lot about my digital marketing, 8 years ago, was completely off the mark, right? So now it's like, instead of trying to tell people how smart I am, now it's more like, how do I identify their pain point, and how do I show that I can fulfill the needs to that pain point and give them access to really good learning, through the main menu, and still stay on the same site. And it all just works so much better for me to put it all in one place.
Yeah. I'm going with one place too as my default.
The thing that neither one of us mentioned was, and I talk to a lot like web developers. I'm not a developer. I'm an implementer. I don't care about a lot of things that other people really do care about. But when you talk to a developer, they start going, "Oh, that plugin is so heavy. It really interferes with the performance." And then you start talking about microseconds of how long it takes the homepage to load, and how they want to have a separate site because it's faster, and they want the page performance, keep the code light, all that kind of stuff. And And you know what my answer has been, Will? And I know that if there's developers watching this, I might get angry emails, but I'm like, just get better hosting. Just get better hosting. If your content is good enough, if your courses communicate well enough, if you are charismatic enough of a person to bring people to the site, they'll wait 0.4 of a second to see it load. And good hosting will get you there. If you've got a site that takes 4 or 5 seconds to load, people are going to lose their patience. But if you've got a problem with page speed and performance, even with all of your tools in one spot, you probably just need better hosting.
Yeah, and once you're at the point where performance becomes an issue in that way, with like plugins becoming too heavy to load down the homepage and stuff, you can actually unload, or it's not, I think it's called unloading, where you don't load certain files on the homepage. For example, LifterLMS doesn't need to be loaded in the homepage, like really ever, unless you're displaying your courses list or something. But on the homepage, you could use LifterLMS shortcode to display your courses in like a tile format or memberships or whatever. But if you're getting into like deeper performance optimization, the web host, like Kurt said, can actually turn off plugins on certain pages from loading and do some of that more aggressive, like unloading of certain files from the pages to make them more performant. Like if you have a login page, you would need to load the theme, but you might not be able have to load like all of the plugins on the login page or something. So you can evaluate each page individually, but that's usually once your platform's more set in stone and you're starting to have like performance related issues. Once you're at like 500 or more users, you're going to start to have like performance issues, especially if they're concurrent users. And then you could be more aggressive with a web host like Presidium. I did a webinar with them where Christos from Presidium explained how that all works with unloading certain assets to make the site faster. So we, if we're having performance issues in the homepage, or we're expecting a lot of traffic from a news article or something like that, then we can take certain steps to dedicate more hosting resources to that page and unload certain things that don't need to be on that page to make it more performant on one website.
I'm with you, dude. We're killing this topic. It's like we actually know what we're talking about now.
Yeah.
This is so much better than 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah. That's the nice thing about going to WordCamps, interviewing experts, building relationships, is we get cool, not only cool shirts, but we get good insight. And then we have about 20 minutes left here. Before you close, do you have a theme for WordPress? I have a problem with my keyboard as well regarding PA Lancaster.
He's talking about geography, Will. So Lancaster is where the Amish people lived, and I lived right outside of Lancaster for a while, and it was phenomenal, dude. Like, you think that the Amish don't like you? It's not that they don't like us; they're kind of fascinated. Like, I would go by on my GSXR by their farms, and their kids would come running from like a 1/4 mile away through the pastures, and they'd run up to the fence and they would wave, and I would go, yeah, it was awesome. And the funnel cakes and the food and the cheeses, oh, it was so good. So anyway, that's what he was talking about at the end of that. The other thing was, do we have a theme for WordPress? Dun dun dun. We do. I think Will went to sleep. Everybody, we got to get him. Got to wake him up.
Right.
We have a new theme actually called Sky Pilot. Sky Pilot is amazing. It is when 6.2 came out with full site editing in the WordPress space. LifterLMS was actually right on time and had Sky Pilot, and Sky Pilot is full site editing compliant, if I'm saying that correctly. And we've updated it a couple of times along. So it was literally just months ago that we released it. And like with anything that's brand new, there were a couple of tweaks that had to be made, a couple of things that needed to be fixed, for styling and for interaction with the editor and things like that. Full site editing is different than just standard blocks. So there's different functionality and stuff like that. But it's, if you want to be at the front end of something, if you want to be at something really cool, take a look at Sky Pilot, because it's an amazing setup. Hey, out of curiosity, I got to stand up. I heard air brakes.
Nice. And on the
that's a big truck.
Oh, is that the moving truck?
Yeah, the moving truck just got here.
Nice. But yeah, on the LifterLMS website, you can find LifterLMS SkyPilot. I just released like a 2-hour videos about how to set it up with WooCommerce and LifterLMS, like a full tutorial. Because there's a lot of caveats to full site editing. If you're new to the full site editor framework, it can be a little bit of a learning curve. And even that video I released was using WordPress version 6.2, and now in version 6.3, it looks a little bit different. So the backend editor looks a little bit different. It's still the same concepts, but things like reusable blocks are now called like reusable patterns, or synced patterns are called synced patterns now. But it's the same concept, but it's a really valuable video to learning the full site editor. Worth checking out for sure.
Yeah, the full site editor, the biggest problem that I had getting used to it was how the menus worked. I don't know why, but that was so frustrating for me to get used to. And now it's, 5 sites in, it's just second nature to go and adjust the menu. But like what Will just said, there's some fundamental differences between like the block builder, Elementor, Divi, and now this full site editing. They're just tweaks in your own brain that you have to, remember where you're at and where stuff is. But it's all there.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the topic of SkyPilot, we had a question from Divine Boho about does SkyPilot have a dark mode? SkyPilot doesn't have like a light mode, dark mode switch thing. Like I would imagine with dark mode, there's like a little switch in the upper right corner, upper left corner somewhere where you could just toggle it on and off. There's not a dark mode in SkyPilot currently. I think that is a future request. You could do like a dark website in SkyPilot by just inverting your colors. Like SkyPilot uses the WordPress color scheme thing, so you could just make the backgrounds dark and the text light. But there's not a way currently for users to invert those colors. It might be possible with a plugin. I've not really explored dark mode plugins for WordPress, but changing the color palette on the front end for users might be possible.
I'm going to drag one of my, I should say an old standby, but it's not an old standby. It's less than a year that I've played with MaxiBlocks.
Oh, yeah.
MaxiBlocks has style cards and dark mode. So you can use the MaxiBlocks within the SkyPilot theme. And when you do that, you would have the ability for those sections to activate, dark or style cards within those sections. So that might get you closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. MaxiBlocks. I don't think we've made any content with them, but WP Tonic, Kurt, you've done some content with them and the founder of that.
And well, Chris did an interview with Christian from MaxiBlocks too.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, they did a full LMS cast on it. So if you are familiar with our podcast, the LMS cast, if you're looking for learning, you've come to the right place. So I think that's how that goes. Anyway, Chris Badgett is the host of LMS Cast, and we've had some really, really good guests on recently, and one of them was Christian from MaxiBlocks. And MaxiBlocks is like any other tool. You have to, there's pluses and minuses. But so when you use MaxiBlocks, there's the blocks. So there's patterns and blocks and style cards that you can use for sections of your website. But it also has the ability to run templates. And so you could add a MaxiBlocks template, and then that template, you could do light and dark theme on it. My warning to you, if you use the template, is that anytime you make a change with the full site editor, it breaks the formatting on any of the templated pages. So you have to go back and resave those pages to get the formatting back.
Interesting. I've never worked with MaxiBlocks to this point, so sounds like cool.
If you look at Mañana No Mas, there's a lot of MaxiBlocks content in the Mañana No Mas page.
Okay. Are you doing the light mode, dark mode thing or not on that website?
No, because I hate dark mode.
Cool. Well, I guess our there was a question from earlier in the week about I'd like to do a pool of 40 quiz questions and then randomly have 10 of them chosen per student. Is it possible? Alternatively, I'd like to give students who do not pass an entirely new quiz, meaning students who pass the first quiz will not see the second quiz. There is a third-party add-on from Aspen Grove Studios. It's like a free plugin that's like quiz banks for LifterLMS. I could probably find that. Banks for LifterLMS. And I can't remember. There was like a the Lifter LMS development team is working on something regarding question banks, but I don't think that's like, I wouldn't imagine that would be released in like the next 6 months or so, because like getting into that project, I mean, I'm like, I don't think I'm a pessimist, but I'm like a realist. Like that requires restructuring the quiz system a little bit, the way that they were going to architect that. So like that's kind of a deep project for Lifter, but then there is this alternative way to approach the problem that, man, I can't even find this thing when I look for it. I got to look at like site wordpress.org. There we go. So let me share my screen. This quiz banks for Lifter LMS thing. Just will search to find the plugin. Is this?
You can do it.
I don't think that's it.
Yeah, and Aspen Grove is called something else now too. So they changed their name, and I think it makes it harder to find their stuff.
Oh. Wait, WordPress.org. What? Random quiz generator. That's what's called. I call it Quiz Bank, but they call it Random Quiz Generator for Lifter LMS.
Adoom.
This one right here, Random Quiz Generator for Lifter LMS. My page is in Spanish because I don't know why.
Last time you looked at it, you were probably in Spain, you world traveler.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably right.
You were in Valencia.
My VPN isn't. No. Yeah. It's probably the last time I loaded that was in Spain. But yeah, Random Quiz Generator for Lifter LMS. What this does is it pulls. So if you have 40 quiz questions on your Lifter LMS quiz, this introduces a little bit of a new interface to that Lifter LMS backend, where you just say like pull 10 random questions, and each time it'll pull 10 random questions. And I think it doesn't pull the same question twice. Last time I used this thing, it would be like, so if the student took the quiz 4 times, they would see 10 different questions each time. But then if they tried to do it a 5th time, the system would fail to find questions and it would pull 0. Like the return value would be 0 questions. And so it would just kind of break. But it would be perfect for exactly this use case where we want 10 questions, and then the second time 10 questions, but it's not a set 10 questions. It's going to be 10 random questions and then 10 other random questions that weren't selected previously. I haven't read the code for this plugin, but that's what it seemed like it was doing. This would be like 2 years ago when I set this up, but seeing as it's version 1.0.2, it hasn't had too many updates, but this is a really useful feature that might be worth checking out from the third-party Aspen Grove Studios. They build, this is an agency that builds Lifter LMS websites, but then they also develop some products. When they see a common question being asked, they'll develop a third-party product. So that one's
they're the ones that made the course scheduler. I've used that on a few sites.
Yeah, the course scheduler, that one's really nice. Cool. We've got about 10 minutes left, and a ton of questions on the YouTube channel. Let's see. I'll copy this one into chat. I haven't read it yet.
Oh, we're flying in blind. This is going to be awesome.
Flying in blind. Thank you. This was super helpful. Let me add some context. This is on a video about how to use Lifter LMS and WooCommerce, the WooCommerce extension that I made. A video about that. Super helpful. I'm wondering, you mentioned the endpoints that we can add to the WooCommerce settings. Is there a way to change the name of the endpoint so it doesn't? So it appears differently on the dashboard, such as my courses become my programs. My courses becoming my programs would probably require some kind of translation tool. What we're talking about here in this question is under Lifter LMS settings integrations. When you have the WooCommerce setup enabled, WooCommerce is enabled on my test website here, and we're talking about these endpoints. They should be pulled in automatically from the accounts area. So when that's enabled, we have these student dashboard endpoints, and these will appear on the WooCommerce My Account page when you have the Lifter LMS WooCommerce together. Lifter LMS will just put a few extra items on the WooCommerce My Account page, and then the default thing to do is to use the WooCommerce My Account page. Forget about the Lifter LMS student dashboard, just use the WooCommerce one, and then Lifter LMS will add some enhancements to it, including these endpoints right here. And so these, if you wanted to remove my grades from the My Account page, it's probably /my account. Sure. So yeah, we got my groups, my grades. So if I wanted to remove my grades there, what I would do is delete this endpoint, save changes, And then if I reload, it should remove yep, my grades is gone. So that's how you can remove it. But this question is, can we change these names to be something else, like change my courses to be my programs? There's not really an easy way to do that. It would have to be like Loco Translate to do that. Loco Translate is a translating plugin for WordPress. So we would basically translate English to English, but like the English version of my courses is my programs, and that's how you would set it up. And then it would see this string my courses and change it to say my programs. So unfortunately, there's not like an easy setup for that right now. It'd have to be Loco Translate.
That's also a really good use case. Ding, 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 ding. That's also a really good use case to maybe call in a simple request codable.
Yeah, yeah, that would
because they might dive into the code on the other side and do it a different way.
Yeah, I'll type that out here on YouTube. Let me see. So, oh, this is a video about your full tutorial on Zoom. This is a comment on that video.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Here we go. Let me hide my screen. Hi, great video. I want to use this on my site. I've got Zoom up and running and can schedule a meeting just fine. Is it possible to set up a generic meeting with no start date and reuse the course week after week?
Can I give a different answer?
Oh, sure. This isn't a live question. This is from like 9 days ago.
Yeah, but it's so can you set up the same Zoom link and use the same Zoom link over and over again? Yeah, you can do that. But if you're embedding this in your website and you want to run it like a generic live meeting site, I actually have come across some new tools lately. So Will, if you would just type in the comments, because my computer's in a really precarious location, the Whereby website. So Whereby is a fairly new project coming out of the Netherlands, and it's got a free service, kind of like Zoom was free, but you can go in there, create an account for free. You can put together a meeting room, and then you can customize that room. So that room could have, its own color background. It could have a picture in the background, anything. And you get a lot of the same features of running a meeting, except that it's so simple. Whenever you create a meeting room and you customize that meeting room, at the bottom, it'll say embed the meeting, and it gives you a code to just, put the HTML code right in your page. So what I've done is, like, if you go to manananomas.com/live-meeting, I just have a page in there. Whenever I want to have a quick meeting with someone, I just pop them that link. I dive in, I start the meeting. They knock. So if they want to join the meeting, it's a thing that says knock to enter. They knock, and I can let them in, and we can have a live meeting right then and there, right on the page. And so I really like the way that system works. And you can put that into lessons, you can put that into courses, you can put it into events. And what I do is I create the meeting room and I leave it open. Like, all of my meeting rooms are open until December 31st, 2023. And the reason I picked that, because I was like, at the end of the year, if I want to change the links or change my format or change something, that's kind of my reminder or my impetus to do that. But you can set those dates as far in advance as you want and keep those links open. And when you close the meeting's closed. So as the administrator, you can open the meeting, and then you can let anybody in you want. You can set the meetings from 0 to up to 200 people. And then if you want to pay for the service, it's like $10 a month, and you can record your sessions, and you can stream to a channel on social and all kinds of options like that. But it's a really cool setup. There's a lot of open source work going on with Whereby, so it's a fun thing to look at. There's another one called Jitsi, Jitsy, and that has a couple of options that get confusing. So they have a hosted version and they have a self-hosted version, which means you kind of need like your own dedicated video server, which is different than a WordPress managed host. And so that gets a little more involved. Some of the folks I know that use Jitsi sing its praises because they love it. But I think there's a learning curve before the love. So I don't want to take the energy out of Zoom. Zoom's great. Zoom's awesome to have in your website and embed in your website. But if you're looking for like a really easy, lightweight, like on the fly, spontaneous meeting room to have with an open link, I think that whereby is a really simple answer, and it works really well.
Awesome. And I was going to go to the Mañana no Mas website to find that page, but I found something interesting that was in my browser history, which was this episode here of the Mañana no Mas podcast.
Orale!
That was how long ago was this? This was like 2022, so almost coming up on like 2 years ago. But that's some classic like Will and Kurt content.
Yeah, Will and Kurt hanging out. Look at me with the virtual background.
Yeah. So, working, Zoom is great, but I want if I want something from Zoom. That's Kurt's website there. Mañana no Mas. No Mas.
Don't put off till tomorrow what you could do today. Mañana no Mas.
Right here in chat. Mañana no Mas. Cool. Well, we're about up on time. We have a few more questions that we'll probably dive into the next time we're live. But yeah, this I guess you have any final thoughts for the audience, Kurt? Any final
use case?
Yeah.
That's my word of the day. It came up on the WP Tonic podcast that I was on today. And it's in my head. Like, well, the Zoom conversation is a perfect example, right? Use case. Like someone goes, "Oh, I really want to use Zoom." Okay. So why do you want to use Zoom? What's your use case? How many people? Is it a professionalism thing? Is it your target audience that uses that product? You have to, there's all these things. And for a lot of people, Zoom is the answer. And I mean, obviously I thought it was the answer. I made all that content for us, right? So it totally makes sense. It's just over time, Zoom is getting more and more complicated with its integration, and you really have to follow that setup guide. Dot every I, cross every T, set up all those, the apps on their side, connect to everything. So it's involved, right? And so use case. If your use case is different and you're looking for something that you can create in 5 minutes and embed in your website and have it work, well, then that puts you in the whereby category.
Nice. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We have a coupon code on screen now, LifterLMS-Live. That'll save you 15% off of any LifterLMS product.
Almost done.
We'll wrap up the live stream for today, but email help@lifterlms.com if you have any questions, or just email help@lifterlms.com and let them know that you love the live streams that we do here so we can justify it and keep doing more live streams. We're getting more engagement, which is awesome. So thanks everyone for jumping in, joining us in the comments on any social platform you see us on. Drop any comments. We'll see them next time we go live. We'll answer any questions there, and we'll be live sometime next week. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week.